Thanks, Dana.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you kind of last minute jumping in to do a car ride with us. Can you tell us a little bit about, introduce yourself, who you are, and what you're doing?
Yeah, so my name is Dana. I'm 33 years old. I'm from Israel.
We keep getting I'm not trying to do the dating app questions. I'm just general profile.
It's a problem today's, application.
Yeah. So I've heard you were 33. We had another one who was 31 earlier today.
Maybe we can meet.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta introduce you. Yeah.
So I'm based in Tel Aviv, grew up in Jerusalem, and I work in Datree. It's a startup preventing misconfiguration in Kubernetes.
Cool.
I'm doing like business development partnership, but the main, my heart is with the community leader.
Okay.
So I work with influencers from all over.
Yeah.
And then when I arrived to the Kubernetes world, I was like shocked, starting to learn online with all those amazing influencers. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I think I should start going to meetups. Mm-hmm. Start to hear and getting more professional.
But so what kind of why Kubernetes? Like what brought you to that kind of particular community in the first place?
So actually I used to work with technologies in the army and before that, and I was doing AI before that, and UX UI, and I was looking for something that will make a big impact in the technology world, in the history of technology. And I'm sure that Kubernetes is that thing, it's the next big thing. It's already.
Right.
And so I got to the meetups and I was shocked. Not so many, maybe 2-3 ladies sitting in the crowd, no speakers.
Yeah.
And then I felt like I think I can make an impact because I'm a people's person and I love to organize stuff.
Yeah.
As I told you, I'm part of the Burning Man community. I was doing a foundation parties.
Well, I didn't, to be honest, I'm not that familiar with Burning Man, and I didn't realize that there are other Burning Mans besides the one in the U.S.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. So is it Israel or is it a bunch of other countries as well? Or
it's called Mid-Burn.
Oh, okay.
It's Israeli Burning Man.
Yeah. All right.
So taking part of those type of events, you need to make an event. And it's kind of like operations, making a conference like I did a month ago. Yeah. With our CNCF Israel group. So either way, I got into this world by wanting to affect and to bring the ladies' voice. I thought that I saw around me a lot of ladies like programmer, DevOps. There is a big DevOps leaders women group. I was trying to get them to talk and they don't want to.
Right.
So slowly I will start, I call it hunting, the ladies all over.
Yeah.
Even now in the conference, I'm like, you're Israeli, you're lady.
You want to give a talk? You want to give a talk?
Please come to our meetups, GitHub, CNCF. I'm in those both communities, organizers.
Yeah.
And actually I managed this year in the GitHub user group. We're the biggest GitHub community in the world.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. And we have every month a meetup, and we managed to have every month one man, one lady.
Oh, nice.
It's sensational.
That's hard to do.
Yeah.
I run a conference. It's a small, 400 or 500 people conference every year in the U.S. that's based on a conference in the Czech Republic, but called Devconf.us. But the charter, the goal of the conference is for kind of new speakers. But you kind of have to also offset that with some big names so that you can get people to show up to the conference. But we have very strong, we have attendee coaching, we have speaker coaching, just to try to bring more, make it a more open community. And a big part of it is how do we get more underrepresented communities involved in particularly open source, because we're a little biased, but software in general, right? And so, I share the difficulty with you.
So in other fields, you won't feel the same sensation in Israel. But anyhow, we made a big conference, the first KCD in Israel.
Yeah.
Our CNCF community is already doing meetups for 4 years. So we decided we should go for it. And even in that process in the committee, I was like, we're going to have half of the committee ladies. The beginning is saying, no, one lady is enough. I'm like, no way. And then I use my community contacts, like getting the first keynote, Lori LaRusso from JFrog, she became a CNCF marketing chair.
Ah,
So
cool.
to get and to get local ladies as well.
Yeah.
So we got like 45% ladies.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that, part of what I try to help do, right, is I want more people who don't look like me in my community.
Yes,
but it's because one of the things I think people, there's the kind of straight up obvious kind of equity component, right? But I also think people don't realize that unless we bring multiple viewpoints to building like software, you're going to have huge gaps in your software, in the quality of it, in the, things it does well and things it doesn't do well, because you're just providing one perspective. And so I think it's like not only like from an equity perspective, but it's also that you make better product. And the only way to be able to support that is you put, like women on stage or whatever, you need people who are leaders in the community who also look like the people you want to participate in the community,
Yeah, I think the tech world already got the understanding that you can't have a team with only like tech people. You need a diversity. Today, if you go to Tel Aviv, like half of the companies would have, I went to law school 7 years ago. I have a doctor. Like you would have so many types of other, not programmers.
Right.
Getting involved and getting like and you can feel it when you're doing like business or product workflow, like when you sit in a room and think with people, like the different types of ideas people have. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, and like I said, I think you end up with better quality stuff, at the end of the day. So that's cool. So what what do you think is kind of next? Like, what are you seeing that you're going to be able to try to build on from that work? For, I don't know, the next conference, are you going to bring Kubernetes to Burning Man? Who knows?
That's funny. I talked to one of the leaders. She was like, let's make a booth. I'm like, you can't sell anything, no money.
Right.
So she's like, okay, I don't know.
We can give out stickers. That's all the engineers really care.
Stickers. People loved it. It's the best stickers ever.
Yeah.
And so I think that I know that in the last KCD, my target was like bringing in diversity and getting in the green conference in. We were the first green conference ever in Israel.
Oh, that's interesting.
It cost a lot. We only have 2 places you can throw up all those disposable. It's like 3 hours away from Tel Aviv.
Right.
So it cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And actually, the knowledge and understanding of green stuff in Israel is very slow, very slow. So it's something that is super important for me. And I feel like I want to get it into the community, like in the meetups, not to have the plastic cups and all the stuff. Because we're making like 2 meetups a month. It's like 250 people.
Right, it's like material amount of stuff. Yeah.
Even in a conference, it's like 450 people for free types of breakfast, dinner, and drinking after. And
we actually have a project. So I do kind of 2 things at the university, right? So one thing is I teach some classes, but I also help drive the projects that the student teams are on. And one of the projects this semester is called Recyclopedia. And because one of the challenges a lot of people have with kind of like recycling is like, okay, is this thing recyclable and which trash can does it go in, right? And so they're trying to build an app that will kind of tell you the answer to that. So you can kind of say, okay, I got a Starbucks coffee cup. Where do I put it? And I just think it's kind of a neat little concept, and we'll, hopefully they'll build something that's kind of cool and maybe usable.
I didn't even know that if you buy like green cups, and you don't take them to a special place, to make a compost from it,
they won't actually get recycled.
So it won't affect badly the world like plastic, but nobody knew about it. Nobody knows about it in Israel. So I want to
would say a lot of that's true in the US. I mean, like I try to be relatively conscious about it. And I know that I throw the wrong, trash in the wrong bin sometimes because I don't know that.
But you have different bins. We don't have
We
right.
Don't have it.
So
it makes it even harder.
So I really want to
Some reason the music randomly comes on in this car. We haven't quite figured out why. Yeah, it's smarter than us, I think, is what it boils down to.
So anyway, yeah, to bring the green conferences in, trying to
kind of accidentally impart, some green awareness into the goers, right?
Yeah, because I was talking to the other community leaders. We're not a big country in Israel, and they were coming to me. Actually, I have a few people writing to me after the conference, like, man, we would love to learn about the process. We have only one company in Israel does it.
Yeah.
Only one.
Well, it makes it easy to find a vendor.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of choices to have to deal with.
And I even thought about taking it one step forward and try to make a special place in Tel Aviv. Like to collaborate with the municipality.
Right, to actually like build an event site for it.
Yeah. We should. Tel Aviv is like very Western, so.
Right. Yeah, I think that's it's funny with when you can kind of use like a conference or other venue as kind of like a accidental support for things like environmentalism or whatever is really useful, because I think people don't realize that it's kind of right there. It teaches them something about it, even if that's not why they're there.
And even now in the conference, when people try to give me some information that is printed, I'm like, thanks. And in our conference, I ask not to have it. So small impact can help as well.
Right. Well, plus they're often, single use, like as in like it's just for that one event, which can be super hard. There's birds. What do you want? I'm not driving over a pigeon. I tend to have, doing these car interviews, I seem to have problems with birds. We had a bunch of them in Detroit. There were a lot of geese. Here, I've had multiple pigeons try to walk under the car wheels. I really don't want to drive over you. But the people behind me disagreed. So, yeah. So if you heard honking on the video, that would be why. I am definitely not driving fast enough for the neighborhood drivers. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
But we were talking about. So, do you think I presume you'll want to do another KCD. Yeah. When do you think you're going to go for like a year from now, or are you going to go maybe sooner than that? What do you think is going to happen?
I think we'll take it. We'll take it a year. I worked for 6 months.
To get it to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was volunteering, so I had no private life in that time.
Yeah.
I was really enthusiastic doing that, and I have some conclusions how
to make it better next time.
Or
how to
for my
to make it simpler next time. Yeah.
We had a lot of volunteers. People after the event asked to volunteer, so to make them more involved.
Right.
This is something that yesterday we had a KCD global event of all the local communities. So I was talking it was very interesting to talk to the Italian guys and to the guys from here, what are their conclusions.
Yeah.
So the Italian team, they're like 50 people. It's like a micro community inside. So it can be harder. As a project manager, I know how hard it can be to have multiplied people in charge.
Right.
But once you get the people that they can take it, and they really do it from the bottom of their heart.
Right. Yeah, what we found was, starting earlier was a big help. It's like if you can add some time to the window, that it makes it a lot less painful. And then also, what we did was adopt if you want to add this feature to the conference, we are excited to have you do that, but you do that, right? If you can't just make a suggestion and then expect somebody else to do it, right? And so we got a lot of really cool ideas out of that, and action. We ended up doing, because one of the times we did the event virtually, during the pandemic, but we wanted people to feel like they were in Boston where it takes place. So we actually had, we got a whole bunch of people to actually take little video clips around Boston, and then we did a virtual tour of Boston for the conference. But that was purely somebody's idea, and they were like, we could do this. And we're like, yeah, go for it, So it's always kind of exciting.
Yeah, we had now 3 days ago a meetup, GitHub user group meetup, and I had like there are a lot of Ukraine Jewish people who ran away. So some of them came up to me and said, it would be a great idea because it's in Hebrew, so maybe you will have like online subtitles.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the guys in the community told me we're like 4 people organizing it. So he's like, great idea. Tell him to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And another lady told me now, he's like, yeah, great, amazing. They're part of the community. Tell them they can promote it.
Right.
And it's true. We need to look at it as a community, and people should understand it's part of it. We try to pass the message that being part of the community is speaking, organizing like me or whatever, but being part of it is being a little bit active whenever you can.
Yeah, yeah.
And bringing your ideas without any bureaucracy.
Right.
And you can do anything you would dream of. And now I'm trying to promote the women's swag, actually. Because we never get anything that is really dedicated for us.
Well, one of the things we started doing, or when I was working at Red Hat, we started doing was actually doing, kind of actually doing a lot of the shirts, for example, like fitted, or going to other things that don't have to be sized, so I thought that was a really good trend, and you're seeing a lot of organizations doing that, like doing socks, for example, which I think is super cool. So, although my kids end up stealing the socks pretty much across the board.
Buying socks.
Yeah. So, it's always kind of neat. So one thing we were talking about this earlier, but we didn't really talk about it during this discussion, which was kind of like, so this kind of community, you getting kind of involved with Kubernetes, whatever, is really kind of what brought you to this, like the job you're doing and everything, right? Well,
one led to another. I started working at Datree, studying Kubernetes, getting into my role, going to meetups. 2 of the founders are the founders of the communities as well.
Oh, okay.
One of the founders is the community user, the GitHub user group, and the second one is CNCF, Shimon Tools, CEO. So it took some time that, they told me, Dana, how come you're not getting in? And I was like, I don't want to get too pushy.
Right.
It will happen whenever it needs to happen. And it really did. Like, it happened slowly, and I met the right people. All of them are here now. In KubeCon, met them on Zoom, and got the
off
right
it went. Yeah, I think that's one of the things. It's something I've been trying to get like students to do. Is like, I went to a Kubernetes meetup in Boston the other day, and we didn't promote it very well, but like, one of the things because I think the students are a little concerned about going to one of these meetups kind of alone, even if they're with a cluster of other student friends. And so I was kind of like, maybe I can go to the Kubernetes meetup and like bring a bunch of students with me. Because I don't think they realize how many opportunities there are especially in the open source world, where if you kind of can start to get involved in the community around that open source system, whatever thing that you find interesting, there's a whole mess of companies that are around it that will often be looking to hire you or like support you working in that community. And if it's something you like, that's a really great way to get a job. I highly encourage it. And you're a success story of that example, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I met some CEO, some VC in Israel in the last meetup, and he was telling me I was like, what is your LinkedIn? He's like, no, I like this type of talk, like the elevator talk. This is how you get a job in my company. And I was like, this is how you get to know the real connection. When you get in the meetup and you meet the people and you hear them talking. Even watching on YouTube, it's not the same. As somebody that got into the Kubernetes world, and I made PhD. So it's hard to sit and watch YouTube. But once you see someone like on stage and enthusiastic about it and like passionate about it, and I would say, I think we talked about it earlier, that this is the real Burning Man of the world, the real shared information, like the open source. It's for someone who got it into it 2 years ago. I was like, wow, that's the reason technology is so fast. Everything goes so fast. It's the reason of the share information.
Right. And all, like, you kind of, all perspectives are kind of enabled and supported, and like, you know, and there's a well understood, and this is one of the things that's so hard about open source, is actually like knowing how to make it so that all the contributors can contribute is actually not easy. You know, and Kubernetes, I think, and the CNCF have kind of figured that out, and you know, they come from a lot of experience in other projects about doing that. But I think that's one of the things that people don't realize, is the amount of work that's involved in making a contributor community like work and be accessible and open and, you know, able to contribute new stuff to it. And you know, I think you benefited from it, and you're trying to give back in that same vein. But I think, like, especially engineers don't realize how hard that part of it is, because, you know, a lot of engineers have never run their own open source project, and so they don't see the difficulty with doing that. But yeah, I think it's super fascinating. But I think maybe we could kind of end the interview there, and we could, unless there was anything else you wanted to add.
So regarding the open source, I would just say that in our company, Datree, we have 5-star project, and I was managing when I arrived the workflow, by answering fast and getting all the issues, to handle all the open source project like properly. And yeah, that's insane. And again, I would say it's very naive. And all the DevOps and the developers who hear me saying that think I'm super cute. But seeing someone from Australia like saying to you, "Hey man, you need that button in your product," and someone else from India getting it fixed, like it's
unexplainable.
Super powerful. Unexplainable, without any money. It's all our developers at work. This is how I understood the meaning. They're like, yeah, yesterday I was getting the issue to Argo CD and like getting super excited from it. Like, really?
Yeah, no, it's really powerful, and it really, you know, I think, you know, like everyone, you know, everyone's always looking for communities of, you know, like-minded individuals or people they can, you know, that they're connected to somehow, and you know, I think the open source world just kind of supports that. You know, it's really nice,
and it supports even a bigger picture. If you look at it now, we have like 2 companies sponsoring our community, and this is part of understanding. Now in the KubeCon, I think a lot of big organizations understanding they should invest more money in open source or in the community. Of course, they have their own benefits
agenda.
From it. For
but that's
business
okay.
agenda, but it brings back to the community so much.
Right.
And so I think it's a win-win situation.
Right. And that, as long as, you know, as long as everyone's kind of incentives are aligned, you know, it's not bad having a goal, you know. So yeah, definitely a fan. And it's so interesting because, you know, you've been exposed to it this way. I've been around the software industry for a long time now. But I was talking to somebody earlier, one of the earlier interviews, who's kind of grew up more the way I did, like with, you know, kind of building everything from scratch in the early days and stuff. And we're just so both astonished about like how open source has made it, because it used to be when we did development, we were like literally banned from using open source software in the early days, and now it's like, you know, the de facto, and it's so crazy, but it's been so good, I think, you know.
Yeah, even in Israel, you can feel it. Even in the army, I'm officer in like communication side. So I was doing radio, AM, FM for years, and then we arrived and the cloud is in, and the computer are in, and like, wow, you have DevOps guys in your team at the army, and units that you didn't have it before, like, so, and it makes everything faster, better, even more secure. And in Israel, it's a matter of life or death. So it's,
well, I mean, you know, generally speaking, military kind of feel that way, you know, so I would say that is not uncommon.
So Kubernetes in the IDF as well, so it's amazing.
Cool. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And, you know, especially kind of last minute. And, you know, hopefully we'll see you around in the community and, you know, more in Israel.
And if you ever come to Israel, or you know ladies who want to talk in our meetups,
Right.
can add me on LinkedIn.
I used to. I knew a few Red Hatters who were in the Tel Aviv office, who might be good candidates. So I'll push them your way.
Amazing.
But yeah.